Ready.
Hello. We're live.
Everybody.
We're
How are you?
live with the one, the only La Kate Richburg. Live and in
everybody.
person. Hello. We're having so much fun. There are still people here eating and buying stones, and we're getting ready to break out the wine. So who knows what the next demo is going to look like?
That is my dream come true.
I'm just saying, who knows what the heck the next.
Super excited.
Super excited for the wine. It's coming. The wine is coming. So what are you doing now?
Well, I'm going to do part 2 of my pearl knotting demo. You guys saw me do part 1 earlier where we drilled that pearl open and we made some bullion wire.
Nice.
So now we're going to knot. You're going to put that right on me? I'll be back later. Perfect. All right. Well, a big hello again to everybody. And again, a big thank you to Francesca and the Makery for hosting all of us. I'll start this demo off by saying you should follow all of us on our social. You can find all of that info. We've been posting all weekend and the week coming up prior to this. But you can to stay tuned for all of these wonderful events that we're creating here. You can also find me live what's Francesca doing behind me?
So our overhead camera, talk amongst, I'll fix it in a minute.
Okay, or I can keep talking.
Camera is, well, I just would have to stick my
Just
armpit
fix
in
it.
your face.
It's all right. It's okay. I'll say that, hello. Going live is not for the faint of heart, everybody. Here, I'm going to get out of the way.
Yeah, thank you.
There you are.
Sorry, we didn't.
There.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right. There we go. Take 2. Can we take that back, please? So, you can find me going live every Wednesday and Friday on my beadtoshop.com social YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and for this weekend to celebrate me being at the Makery and doing all things pearl knotting and metal related. Metal related stuff you can find on my website, katerichbergjewelry.com. Pearl knotting stuff you can find on our beadshop.com website. And that coupon code that I have for you for Bead Shop is Makery20. And so if you enter that as you check out, it'll knock 20% off your beadshop.com chart. Thank you, Makery, and thank you guys out there for being a part of this. So let's go back to where we left off with pearl knotting, shall we? So when we last visited our pearl knotting project, we saw that we created this bullion wire that's here. Here's that drilled out pearl, and I have a double strand of silk thread, though you could use whatever thread that you're into. This is silk, but you could use Ceylon, whatever works. Can we pull out just
hold on to the rig.
Okay. Oh, sorry. There we go. Perfect. That's perfect. Yep. So I pulled off a length of silk threads, okay? And just as a refresher, your length for your silk as you are measuring, you're going to measure 3 times the length of your finished necklace, and then you're going to double that over. So if this were going to be a 16-inch necklace that I were making, I would reel off 16 inches times 3. I'd double it over, and then I would string it through my wire needle here. Then what I did is I came up through, I strung on my pearl, I strung on my bullion, went back through that pearl, or added my button or whatever clasp I was going to use, go back through that pearl, and I tied that knot there. Now, if you'll remember, I said that I'm going to show you not to worry about that knotting. We're going to look at that knot, and now the time has come. So I've got this doubled thread. I've got my needle. It's that wire needle. It's kind of hard to see because it's, so small. I'm going to pull out some beads from my little chest of pearls here. And we're going to start by we're going to start by just adding my bead on right here. Now I'm going to show you 3 ways, you guys, to snug that knot right up to that pearl. One involves a tool. The second involves a pearl against a pearl. The third will involve just my hands. So let's go ahead and use the tool first. I'm going to go ahead. I've slid that pearl on. Now the knot that I'm going to tie, you guys, is just a simple overhand knot. I'm right-handed, so I'm working this with my right hand. I come around, I just make a loop around my fingers and slide that thread through that loop, right? Just like at the end of a sewing thread. We've all made this knot before, right? So I'm going to come in, and now with this tweezer, my knotting tweezer, it's a bent tweezer here. I'm going to come in. Let's say, though, I've got my knot kind of up close to where my pearl is. But let's say that this was like all the way down here, right? No big deal. All you're going to do is you're going to take one leg of that pearl knotting tweezer and put it inside the loop of the knot, one leg on the outside. Francesca has this nice little cork surface here. So the tips of my tweezers kind of sit right in there, but you could also use a velvet pad or, some kind of surface that has a little bit of give to it. Then what I'm going to do is, see how I just pull, so that my knot has formed around the head of my plier. Now this is the point, Francesca, where we can zoom in just a touch. Because I really, there we go. I really want you guys to see how this is going to work. Now my tweezer, the head of my tweezer fell out of this knot. It's okay. As long as this knot has not been tightened, you're golden, okay? So I'm going to come in, I'm going to walk that knot down as far as I can against that pearl. And I'm going to pull the head of the tweezer out. Now, I'm not pulling on this strand yet until I get the head of my tweezer up against that knot. Now, I'm going to pull this thread towards me, and I'm going to push the knot away towards the pearl. I'm going to split my threads, right, and tighten that up. And that's it. Okay, so that's method 1. The secret is don't get freaked out, right? Don't push that knot up against the pearl until it's in position. So let's do that one more time. I'm going to come around. I'm going to go through. I'm going to go a little bit faster at Kate's speed here. I'm going to get that tweezer inside the knot, one tweezer leg on the outside, pull that thread towards me, and see, it didn't pull evenly, so just figure out which is the correct thread. There you go. Push that knot towards the pearl. Remove your tweezer, but don't screw with the knot. Let it stay loose. Push the knot away from you and the threads towards you. That's it. Open the threads and tighten. Now, yes.
Is there a, how tight should this be in order to get a good drape?
So it's a good question. So Francesca asked, how tight should this knot be so that your strand of pearls has a nice drape to it? I think that I kind of do that automatically. And I think that the thread is almost self-leveling, almost, really. So as long as you're not yanking this thread within an inch of its life, that knot isn't going to walk down and tighten too tightly. Okay? Can we lift, I'm sorry, can we lift that just a hair?
Zoom out.
Please. There we go. Perfect. So now what we're going to use instead of, and I'm going to get rid of this tail because it's bugging me. All right. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to tie another knot. Okay. Make that loop. Put that thread through. Now, let's say that you didn't have a tweezer. Okay. We can use our friend, the next freshwater pearl in the lineup, as our pusher. So here I'm going to keep my threads even. Now, watch what I do. I'm going to put my finger here. We're going to pull this as evenly as we can. Let's tighten up that knot up to that pearl to get rid of the slack. See that? How I've gotten rid of the slack? Push that pearl up so the two pearls are kissing. And that knot is formed. Okay. Let's do it again. Let's tie another. Yep. I'm going to tighten this up. The way I like to leave it, it's not. Pearl knotting is extremely easy. You don't need a fancy tool. In fact, and I will go on record saying that I find that the fancy tool gets in your way, right? So I'm going to come in here. Let's use that pearl as a pusher. Thank you. See how I push the pearl towards the other pearl? Tighten this up. Don't let it get around that other pearl there. But see?
That's amazing.
It can't help.
Everybody all together. That's amazing.
That's amazing. So amazing. Now, we're going to take this camera out just a little bit of a wider shot, and I'm going to show you how to do this with my hands.
Is that good?
So you guys can use, now I'm using silk because that's what I've used, but you can also use Ceylon. You've seen me do that on Bead Shop. I use the Ceylon, the fine Ceylon, to do that. Always use something, it's my preference to use something that's a doubled strand, right? Because you saw how easy that was to split those threads and walk that knot down. So, you know, whatever you have, Ceylon, Eslon, silk, whatever works. The Ceylon in fine, and I like a silk in a size F. Okay? So, now with just your hands. Now, I've been pearl knotting for 30 years, right? So I'm right-handed. So I'm going to use my right hand here. I'm going to wrap around, and I'm going to make that same loop that I did earlier. Okay? I'm going to dip that thread. I've made a little bridge here under my index finger and my middle finger. I'm going to take that thread under the bridge. Now, I pull that knot down. So can you see that knot is formed, you guys, right there? I just have to pull the slack out of this loop. So what I'm going to do is, if I go slowly, sometimes it's harder, right? That loop is there. I'm going to get my fingers around that pearl, my thumb on that knot, and pull that knot down tight. I'm going to do it again. I do make it look easy, but the secret to this is, kids, make yourself a little practice strand, and don't worry. If you have a knot that lands way out here, move on to the next bead. You're going to cut it up anyway. Just make a practice strand, right? So that
somebody is asking if these pearls are normal size pearls or large.
Yeah, no, just regular pearls right off the strand, right? So I pull through. You may want to test, though. These are all about 7 millimeter pearls, maybe a little bit larger, but most of those pearls have that same size hole. But you do want to test your thread to make sure that your pearls slide nicely along that thread. Okay? So
Yeah, we need to see that again.
here we go. I dangle this down. So this is down towards the table. I come in with my left hand like I'm waving at myself. Pull it around so that the little X meets at the top of this pearl. Remember to make that bridge, right? I've made that bridge between my index finger and my middle finger. The index finger of my right hand comes over that, or inside that bridge, under the bridge. and I pull that thread through. Now, I pull that thread tight with my right hand so that the knot is against the pearl. See that? Now I'll get my middle finger and my index finger and my middle finger around that pearl. I'm going to drop that loop and I'm going to get my thumb on the knot. My thumb acts as a stopper, right? So I can feel under my thumb that that knot is in the right position. I'll take it out. Well, see, oh, perfect. It's not in the right position. So what do? I could continue on, right, as just a practice. But if you're doing this at home and you make this gaffe, let's take a look at how to untie a knot.
Let's take a look at how to untie a knot.
Let's get this camera down.
Zoomed in.
Okay, not the end of the world, literally.
Are you sure? Because it
I
feels
am.
like it's the end of the world.
No, it is not. It is not the end of the world.
Okay,
The thing is, you guys, don't stress. I'm going to come here with my unknotting tweezer. Notice how I didn't pull my strands. I didn't try and walk this knot down. I just said, all right, let's take this knot out. Now, when you look at the anatomy of a knot, you guys, it's kind of hard to see here. But that knot has a cross where it comes together. That, where it crosses, you need to pull it apart a bit, right? You need to wiggle that knot. So
it's anatomy.
it is anatomy.
It's the anatomy of the knot.
Thank you. The mantra here, kids, is wiggle and wait. Wiggle and wait. Wiggle and wait. All right? So I'm going to get my pearl knotting tweezers. Thank you. And I'm going to hold that knot. I'm going to come in and I'm going to wiggle that knot just a bit. Then I'm going to wait. Look at how, even just by wiggling, can you see how that knot has started to unfurl a bit? I'm not stressed. I've got all the time in the world. Who cares? It's just a knot. Big deal, right? I'm going to wiggle that one more time. Never pulling on this strand out here because that's just going to tighten the knot, right? Now it looks like I've got a good opening in there. So I'm grabbing where this cross is. I'm going to grab this side, and I'm going to pull it apart. So here is, it's a little hard for you guys to see, but here is this side of that knot. Here's this side of that knot. Wiggle and wait. And as soon as I get an opening, which I've got right here, I'm going to put that down. I'm going to put that down and push the head of my knotting tweezer in that knot. Now I'm home free. Now all I have to do, I actually wanted it this way. Let me turn this back around. Get the head of my tweezer back in there. Now I can just open that knot up, and we're treating those two strands as if they were one. This is a little bit out of my focal range, so I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing it. But you can see, there we go. It's all good. Just remember, if it's a double strand, what one strand does, another strand has to follow. Okay? So there we are. Now we're ready. Okay? So now, yeah, let's zoom out. Yep.
Excuse me. Do you need to worry about the strands now being weaker?
So that's a great question. So the question was, so Kate, are you worried about if these strands are weaker where I pulled that knot out? So what you want to do is, and you can see this even in the video up there, the screen, that there isn't really any damage to this thread, okay? If there was damage to this thread, and that's what I'll do in my third demo, I'm going to show you what to do if a strand breaks. Okay, so I'm just gonna come in, hold that thread, get it under the bridge, pull that knot down, get my fingers around that pearl, get my thumb on that knot. I can feel it pushing it down, and I tighten. Split those threads and tighten it up, and there we have it. Okay.
That's just amazing.
So any of those three, the tweezer method, the push the pearl up against the pearl method, the kissing pearl method, and the hand knotting method all work. The secret to it is, you guys, is keep loose hands, right? This isn't a lifeline, it's just a strand of pearls. And never tighten on this thread that the needle is attached to until that knot is in position, right? Because if you're tugging on it and pulling it, you're just tightening that knot, right? So it's not ever going to move if you tighten it. Okay, I'll do that one more time. Any other questions? How did that go, Francesca?
I'm stunned, frankly.
It's easy.
Let me speak into your chest. I'm
Do it.
stunned. I have been making this much more complicated in my head than it needed to be.
Right? So I'm going to do a few at Kate's speed because I'm vain. But I've been pearl knotting a lot of years. So if you go to beadshop.com, you guys, and you look under our learning tab, we have our classic class handout from our brick and mortar days. You'll find it under class handouts. You'll find the class handout for pearl knotting. Okay, you can download that class handout free of charge and practice all day long. Pearl knotting is a lost art, and it's a beautiful way. You don't have to just knot pearls, you can knot stones. And if you're a metalsmith, it is, I think, a great compliment. So let's see, I just happen to have Francesca's pieces right here, right? So if Francesca finished these off and did a little bit of a loop here to this, wouldn't, your metalsmith piece, it would be a beautiful piece to come in. You'd get another pearl here. We'd put a little bit of fine bullion like we did on this end. We'd attach that component there, and then we'd knot it back off just like we started it, right? And then you would continue on this way just as you would here, knotting along. And pearl knotting adds and elevates your piece to what we like to call museum quality, right? So just my little take on it.
Do we need to be worried about the edges of the bead or the pearl cutting into the silk?
No, so that's a great question. So Francesca asked about the pearls themselves. Will the edges of that pearl cut the silk? Stone beads might be more apt to do so. However, since you're knotting these fairly tightly, the bead is going to stay in place. So it's not going to rub or do things like that. When pearls break, and you'll know this from looking at your grandmother's pearls or pearls you may have had, that when the silk starts to stretch, that's where it breaks, right? Because it's the whole of the thread rubbing against the whole of the bead rubbing against the thread. So as long as I have found in my experience that the pearls or the beads are tightly knotted, you don't really have that issue. Yes, question. Excellent question. So there was another question on stretching the silk. So I'll show you. If you, Francesca, want to do front camera. So you can, so silk is a natural fiber, right? So it will stretch. And so what I do for that is I'll reel off my silk. Let's pretend this is a long piece. Now there's a lot of ways that you can do this. Some people cut their silk the night before and they add like a little ear, they get it all set up add a little earring on the end and they hang it from a door or whatever. But if you have cats, that's not really the way to go, right? Because your cat will think it's a little play toy. So I've got my silk thread here. I've got my very fine wire needle here. I'm going to slide it through, and I'm going to tie a knot here in the end, close to the end of my thread. Let me walk this down. Okay. So now there's a couple of ways that you can do this. And if this is a long cord, you have to really stretch out. But you can, kind of like a cat's cradle that you'd be playing. Whoops, that was a little too rambunctious. You can hand stretch it like that, right? Let me go ahead and retie it. I was a little too close to the end of my thread. What I mostly do is I'll come in. So let's not go so close to the end. Because the silk, the knot, that just simply illustrated that knot will travel if you put a lot of pressure on it, right? So I'll just come in and I'll hand stretch it this way. I can also, it's hard for you to see, but I'm going to put that end on the floor and I'm going to pull up on that thread, and that's going to help stretch that out, right, as well. You could also, some people use, they wet the silk, stretch it a little bit, and then you iron it with your iron or a straightening iron from your hair. You can do it that way as well. That gets kinks out of your thread. I use my hair straightening iron on all nylon threads. I have a little mini one that you use for travel, and I just iron that thread, and it's perfect.
That's spectacular.
It's a good tip. So that's it. So thank you so much for asking about the stretching. And so that, I guess, is mostly a wrap on this segment. Next, at the end, I'll go ahead, I'll show you what happens when we break a thread, and we will close off the other side
I'm
of this
so
piece.
excited. This has been, I'm not even kidding, like I'm not blowing smoke. Like
You
for
are
real.
so funny.
not blowing smoke. Can I speak into your boob?
Yes, you can.
This has been wonderful.
It has
Actually,
been wonderful.
Seriously, I've been wanting to try pearl knotting, and I felt intimidated by it. And it
so super
turns out
easy.
it's easy.
It's so easy.
I have a lot of pearls, so
yeah. You just need, and I really want to tell you guys, when you start to practice, make a tester strand. Don't have any invested interest in it. Just let your hands go freely and fluidly, and you'll learn a lot quicker. Then apply what you've learned to your finished piece.
awesome. This has been a blast.
It has
I don't know
been a
what
blast.
we're doing. I'm not honestly, guys, I'm not sure what's happening next. I need to regroup and maybe eat some food.
Maybe.
We'll be back at some point here, not
We will.
too far from now.
And when you shop over at Beach Shop, don't forget to use today and tomorrow your Makery 20 discount.
Makery 20. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
that. I appreciate it. All right, guys, watch for the next broadcast schedule. We will put that up on our Facebook page, and we would love to have you join us.
All right.
Bye.
See you all soon.